When we talk about global conflicts, few have been as long, as complicated, or as consequential as the one between the United States and Iran. We're talking about two powerful nations, decades of tension, and a rivalry that continues to shape the entire Middle East. But the big question is, why? Why has it been going on for so long? Well, let's dig in. Just think about that number. Over 70 years. That's an entire lifetime of mistrust, of proxy conflicts, of high-stakes standoffs. The sheer length of this thing, it's really staggering. And it shaped not just the region, but really the whole world. So to really understand the headlines we see today, we have to go back, way back. Because the roots of this conflict, they run deep. And they can be traced all the way back to a single pivotal event that basically set these two nations on a collision course. Okay, we're starting in 1953. For so many historians, this is it. This is the moment. They call it the original sin in the US-Iran relationship. And the consequences of what happened here, well, they're still echoing today. And what was this all about? Well, as it so often is, it was about oil. At the time, Iran's democratically elected prime minister, a man named Mohammad Mossadegh, he made a really bold move. He nationalized the country's oil industry, which up to that point had been totally controlled by the British. So here's how it all went down. Mossadegh nationalizes the oil in '51. Right away, Britain hits back with this crippling worldwide boycott. But when that wasn't enough, the US and Britain decided to take more direct action. The CIA and Britain's MI6 put together something called Operation Ajax, a full-blown coup that kicked out a popular elected leader to put the monarch, the Shah, back in power. And this right here brings us to a super important idea: blowback. The 1953 coup is a perfect textbook example of this. See, the short-term goal, securing Western oil interests, yeah, that worked. But what it also did was create this incredibly deep resentment inside Iran that just festered for decades and would eventually explode. It's a classic case of a covert op having huge unintended consequences down the line. And that explosion, that blowback, it didn't happen right away. No, this was a slow burn. It was years and years of anger building up against a leader that so many Iranians saw as illegitimate, a puppet installed by foreigners. And all that resentment was building towards a revolution. 26 years. Let that sink in. For 26 years after the coup, the Shah ruled Iran, propped up and backed by the West. An entire generation of Iranians grew up under a leader they knew had been put in power by the US and Britain. So you see, the Islamic Revolution in 1979 didn't just come out of nowhere. The seeds for it were planted way back in 1953. The Shah was seen as a US puppet. People were getting more and more angry about his pro-Western policies and his oppressive rule. And all the while, from exile, a charismatic religious leader, Ayatollah Khomeini, was rallying the opposition, which led to these massive protests that the Shah just couldn't control anymore. So the revolution happens, the Shah is gone, and then comes the event that just shattered any hope of normal relations. An act that would come to define the US-Iran relationship for the next half-century. 52. In November of 1979, with the revolution at a fever pitch, a group of Iranian students stormed the US Embassy in Tehran. They took 52 American diplomats and citizens hostage. And they didn't hold them for a week or a month. They held them for 444 days. For over a year, this was the top story in America, a daily national trauma that was just inescapable. This event completely obliterated diplomatic relations. As the US Office of the Historian puts it, the crisis just dominated the headlines and made the government look weak and ineffectual. From this point on, there was no turning back. The two countries were locked in a state of open hostility. After the hostages were finally released, you'd think maybe things would cool down. But no, the conflict didn't end. It just changed its clothes. The fight moved away from direct confrontation and became a long, bitter Cold War fought on the economic battlefield. And the main weapon of choice? Economic sanctions. It started small in the 80s, but just look at how it ramped up. By '95, you have a full US trade embargo. Then, a year later, the US starts going after other countries' companies if they did business with Iran. By the 2010s, the pressure was just immense, trying to completely cut Iran off from the entire global financial system. And that brings us right into the 21st century, where this very old conflict finds a brand new and honestly a much more dangerous focus: Iran's nuclear program. Now, for a brief moment, it really seemed like there might be an off-ramp. In 2015, a landmark deal was struck, known as the JCPOA. The bargain was pretty simple, really. Iran agreed to seriously scale back its nuclear program, and in return, the world powers would lift those crippling economic sanctions. It was a huge diplomatic breakthrough. But wow, that diplomacy proved to be incredibly fragile. The ink was barely dry on the deal when, in May of 2018, the United States just walked away from it. And what happened next was a rapid, dangerous spiral. The US slammed the sanctions back on, and Iran, in response, started firing up the very nuclear activities it had promised to stop. And this wasn't just a return to the old status quo. Things got way more intense. The US launched what it called a maximum pressure campaign. Iran started enriching uranium to levels it never had before. And then, in January 2020, things really boiled over when the US assassinated a top Iranian general, Qasem Soleimani, bringing both sides to the absolute brink of a hot war. And this is so crucial to understand. This fight has never been just about Washington and Tehran. The shockwaves, the ripple effects, they are felt across the entire Middle East. So why does this matter so much to everyone else? Because this tension is what fuels devastating proxy wars in places like Yemen. It forces other countries in the region to pick sides, creating even more instability. And since so much of the world's oil comes from the area, any flare-up can make the price you pay for gas go through the roof. So here we are. You can literally draw a straight line from that dispute over oil back in 1953 all the way to today's standoff over nuclear centrifuges. It's a cycle of action and reaction, of resentment and retaliation that's been spinning now for more than 70 years, which leaves us with this huge fundamental question. When a conflict runs this deep, woven through generations of grievance on both sides, is a different future even possible? Can these two nations, so deeply tangled up in this history, ever find a way to rebuild trust? Or is this just a conflict that's destined to be passed on to the next generation?